Today on Gamer's Couch,
Trickerion. Hello. Welcome. It's a kind of mad... No.
Don't sing.
I will now point something out to you, and you will be surprised because of that great a trick that it is. See? Surprise!
I was surprised. That was not planned. Why are you poking me?
It was a magical trick. No?
Welcome to the couch, everybody. Happy Sunday. This poker here is my sweet husband, Daniel.
Do you want to say I'm a pokey man?
No.
Well, then,
You're a poker.
then go on. Continue.
Oh, maybe you're a Pokemon, but you're not a Pokemon. His name is Daniel, my sweet husband.
That is correct.
I'm Sarah, the artist behind Pinselgeschichten and owner of this channel. And each Sunday we present a new and different kind of a board game to you that comes from our collection and that we have lots and lots of thoughts about. Today it's Trickerion. And we go about it just like every week, talking about rules and gameplay, going further to likes and dislikes, and finishing off with funny stories and experiences. So, sweetheart, I try to stay awake and drink my coffee. You can talk. How's the game, please?
All right. Follow me onto a journey into Victorian age magicians. And
I'm ready to follow.
you wanted to drink your coffee.
Also,
Into Victorian age magicians, magic illusionists, and that is what you are in this game. You are an illusionist. Well, I guess magician is fair because there's different kinds of magic that you can do. But you do tricks in a theater. So no, not the pointy head kind of wizard this time. This time it is all about, well, surprising the audience.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking we could add a magician that is very good at making the air smell funny. That would be me.
No.
It's an illusion.
No. And unfortunately, it's not an illusion. Even if the air is flimmering, I don't even know. Whatever. You're a magician, and you want to do tricks to a public audience in a theater, get victory points, and win the game in that way. There's a very slight hint of a story in this game about, once great illusionist called Darga that kind of is looking for someone who's following up on his illusionism thing, and all the players are competing for that, but it's all about you want to do tricks and you want to end with the most fame, which are victory points in this game at the end. So once you start, or when you start, the first thing, and this is now attention, rules and gameplay, you have to select one of the 4 available schools of magic to you. They are, and now I have to look, illusionists, mechanical stuff, spiritualism, and escape artists. And all of these have different preferred tricks, naturally. Once you've settled who is who in that regard, you get to choose what is the actual magician that you want to play. And there's some options for the different classes. So, for example, for optical illusions, you have either the Great Optico or the Gentleman. For escape artists, you have the Red Lotus and the Mass of Chains, and that doesn't really put any difference, at least not for the base game. And just to put it right away, we are talking about I think it's called the Legendary Edition, so that's the all-in-one Kickstarter edition that comes with a couple of expansions, and
Legend box, yeah.
The Legend box. I will talk about the Trickerion Legends of Illusion is actually the correct one. So I will talk about the expansions, but first let me get you settled on the base game. Once you selected your dude, you also get a nice little poster, which is kind of just fluff stuff that's cool to have in there. And then you get some starting money, some starting tricks, some starting specialist assistants, and so on. Actually, it makes most sense to just talk about the game round, and then you get a better idea of what's going on. So you have on this board, and this is one of the games where you want to own a second or a third table to get everything on said table. Please hold.
Behold, I'm holding the board.
Hold the line.
Hold the line.
You have different areas to go to. Roughly said, in the base game, there are 4 different areas, but you only see 3 on here because one is in front of you. You have the downtown, which allows you to get new tricks or learn new tricks, to get money from the bank and to hire new workers. And if the round squares don't give it away already, this is a worker placement game where you will send out your little dude discs to do stuff and to occupy spaces and get rewards for them. You have the market down here that allows you to buy components which are necessary to prepare the tricks you want to show. And to show the trick, well, you go to the theater and perform the trick in front of an audience. And I'd like to hand this now over to you. Please hold. This is not working well with the holding.
Hold the line.
Now, depending on your school of magic, you have one of these 4 starting boards, and this is the 4th area that you can go to. It's called the workshop, where you will send guys to actually prepare the trick. So the game loop itself is pretty much, you start out, you determine who's first for this round, and that's depending on who's on how far on the fame track, and it favors people who are kind of left behind, have the lowest fame, so that they can go first and catch up a little bit. Then you may decide to advertise, and there again, if you're the first to start the round, it's the cheapest. You just pay 1 coin for 2 points of fame, and this goes up to even more points, and that's actually where you would have these posters for, so you can put the poster down here to remember, hey, someone advertised at this point. Afterwards, you plan your turn, and you do so by, and now I have to kind of get these guys out of the bag. The cat
You're
is
so
out.
unprepared.
The cat is out of the bag. Exactly. Now, you at least will start with, or you will always start with the magician and one kind of stagehand guy. So these have different icons on them and a little number that kind of gives you an idea how much they get done this turn, how many actions they have. And once you play, or when you start, they are still resting on these spots down here. And in the phase right after placing your poster, you get to decide to where do you want to send them to. So you have a couple of cards on hand that correspond with those 4 locations. And again, this is base game, so actually the amount of cards is a little bit different for the expansions. But you have 3 theater cards and 2 cards for each of the other 3 locations. So let's say I want to send my magician to the theater and my guy to the market to buy stuff. I would put 2 cards face down here, and after everybody has done that, you reveal, and then now you know where everybody is going. So this is entirely there to avoid looking at what other people are doing and trying to adjust your strategy for that. Your plan, it's a little bit like Broom Service or Roll for the Galaxy, where you just put down where do you want to send your guys. And that's just determining where they go. That doesn't necessarily say which spot they go on and what they do, because now in the next phase, once you have done that, you get to decide, or let's say the player who's first on the initiative track gets to decide which of his little dudes he's going to send out first. And in my case, I could send either the magician first to the theater or my stagehand to the market, and I would say, yeah, I want to send my stagehand guy helper to the market, which is down here, and you need to lift this a little bit more into the camera to me, yeah, and stop. So by sending this guy to the market and assuming we have a full 4-player game, I have 4 different spots to choose where to place him. And these spots also give a little action bonus. So if I'm the first one to send a guy here, I get a +2 action bonus that gets added to the number on my dude here. So I would have 3 actions, 2 + 1, to do stuff in this area. And all the other areas work in a similar fashion. Some give you a bonus, some even give you a -1, like the Sunday spot. Actually, all of these are very simple. The only exception to the market and the downtown area is, in fact, the workshop, which gives you no bonus. But nobody can steal your spot there because it's only you who's allowed to place a guy on your own board. And the other place that's a little bit different
This is like gymnastics.
Is the theater up here, where there are actually 3 spots per area. So you have to decide, do you want to put your guys on the Thursday spot, on the Friday spot, Saturday or Sunday, which determines when you will be performing and also determines how big of a crowd you will be performing to and get more bonuses, so to speak. So it's more beneficial to perform on a Sunday than on a Thursday when nobody wants to go to the theater. But Thursday actually has some other advantages if you're not performing any trick, but just prepare tricks for later. You get an action bonus there. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So let's talk about what you can do at the areas, and then you are relieved from holding the thing up.
Until we go to the expansions.
Yes. So we have the downtown area, and actually let's put that away, because before I can actually start telling you what you can do there, let me tell you about how you prepare tricks and all that stuff. As I said, every guy or every magician has a couple of tricks in his or her category, but you can still learn tricks from other disciplines, so to speak. So a trick looks like this. It's a card that goes onto your workshop thing here, and you will be using a little marker with a trick suit on them. In this case, I have spades, so I would put the spade marker on here and indicating with that whenever I prepare this trick, I will take some small, where are they? There. I take some little spades tiles and put them, well, on the empty field on, if I can, it's difficult to, there. And these tiles I can then later on spend to perform the trick in the theater. But let's talk about these first. So in order to actually learn this trick, I need to have as much fame as indicated by the star down here. So this is a level 1 trick, so anybody can learn it right away. Then here you have an indicator that says, what do you need in components to build this thing? This is not just, well, magic, I wiggle my hands and then something appears out of thin air. You have to buy the stuff that allows you to do this trick. So we need 2 pieces of cloth for this trick. And when you start out, you can select which components you want to start with, or at least you can select components in a value of 2. There's 3 broad categories of components, basic ones, these here with a single dot on them. Then there's advanced ones, I think that's right, with 2 dots, and superior ones with 3 dots, and they just cost a little bit more. You don't spend your components when you prepare a trick. So if this field here is empty, you are allowed to prepare the trick. It costs you an action, and then you put your little tiles on here, and then that trick is ready. As you can see, you can have up to 3 tricks on your base board. You can hire more folks later on, and I'll go into that give you the ability to have more tricks. But that's kind of what you do. You send your guys out into town to run errands or to your workshop preparing those tricks, and then you send them to the theater to actually set up the tricks on the stage, and then afterwards you have your magician, if you actually send them to the theater to perform the tricks, to do that. Something else I mentioned, and now we can go into the downtown thing. There's a notion of money in this game. So you buy your components. There's money.
Money.
Not anymore, because now money is on the floor.
Oh wow, that's a great game. Song, text, game alpha. Blah.
So let's talk about the areas that you can go to. You have downtown, and downtown allows you to get more money by sending them to the bank. Downtown is actually a little bit special because at the beginning of each round, and you're playing this game in the base game over 5 rounds, you will roll these dice, and these dice determine what are the actual benefits that are available for you when taking any of these actions. So, for example, you have these white dice that determine which type of spells can be learned this turn. And once you use one of these dice, you flip them over to this X spot, and that means, well, that's gone. The black dice here determine how much money you can get if you go to the bank. And these gray dice tell you what kind of help you can hire these turn. And all of them get turned to the X side once you've used them up. Now, I already said, if you send someone here and put them on a space, you get a certain amount of actions. So how to read these is, you can go to the bank and choose either the A or the B die value and get that much money, but you have to send someone here and spend 3 action points to do so. Now, the highest spot gives you +2, so if I would send my helper guy there with only one thing, I have to be the first to actually do anything. So I can send him there and have 3 action points to get the money thing, because all the other 3 big actions there also take 3 action points. The second one here being which spell can be learned. So you can learn all the tricks, or at least all available tricks, unless they have been acquired by someone else. I mean, magicians and secrets, and they don't want to tell how it works, and everybody's gotta have an edge over the other magicians. So you can get new tricks from the trick stack, and there's, as you can see, there's a lot of tricks for the different disciplines to learn. You cannot learn all of them because, as I said, this little star down here tells you how much fame you must have to learn a trick, and you can learn at the start of the game all the 1 tricks. The next stage, so to speak, are level 16 tricks, and you need at least 16 fame to learn them. Or you can learn them if you have less, but you have to pay the difference to learn that trick. It's actually, in the first 1-2 turns, and I would even say maybe in the 3rd turn, it's unlikely that you go for the 16 fame trick. Those are more kind of for the end game part, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The 3rd space here is whom to hire, and now we have to talk a little bit about the extra boards. So you can hire additional stagehands here, which are, well, just, again, the 1 action little dudes that let you do multiple things, but they're not really useful because they only provide 1 action. Now, you can also get someone who's a little bit more qualified. Let's call them specialists. Actually, the game also calls them specialists, and there's 3 of them. You get to decide if you want to have a female version or a male version. They do the same thing, but they're kind of very different specialists. You have a manager. And the manager, so all of these specialists actually provide you 2 points of actions. So the manager has this little token here, which would go on this space, and this has, well, 2 points of actions. So they're already twice as useful as your normal stagehand guy. The manager also has some additional spaces here to store components, and these are special indeed because every component that is stored there is treated as if you have an additional one of that component. Some spells require you to have multiple amounts of the same component. So let's say you bought this really expensive raincoat because it's a superior item. It costs 3 coins instead of 2 or 1 like the others. If you put it on here, you now have 2 raincoats because your manager is just that good in the rain. The manager also gives you another action for your workshop, which means you can spend an action point to rearrange your components. So you can move one from here to your baseboard and over, so you can, well, rearrange your components stock to your needs depending on what tricks you want to prepare. Secondly, you have the engineer or engineeress something. Which gives you an additional slot for a trick to place. And not only is that a 4th trick you can have in your repertoire, but that trick, if you prepare it, you get an additional tile, and this is what this little icon down here means. So the trick I just had, the enchanted butterflies, if I prepare it, I would get 2 trick tokens as indicated by this icon here. But if my assistant is falling asleep, that's just to distract you from this magical trick I'm going to do. I'm holding this against here. So if I would prepare this trick, I would get 3 tiles on here instead of 2, which just saves me some time later on preparing that trick or having more to spend on there. Even more important for the more powerful late game tricks, this is quite useful because most of them only allow you to have 1 trick. So you almost save an entire prepare action if you have the engineer for that. And lastly, you have an assistant, either a handsome guy here or the girl here. And this has actually space for 2 workers. One is the specialist, her or himself. Again, 2 action points to do something with him or her. This little thing. But it also has we call him the intern, because he actually does not cost money at the end of the game, and I'll get into paying wages in a bit, but all the workers you send out, you actually have to pay them. So she gives you, or he gives you, just an additional worker for free, and herself or himself to do that, and another action that allows you to put a worker from your baseboard over here, which you only really need if you don't have any worker on here or you don't start out with her. Because all of these 3 dudes, you get to select one at the start of the game, and they all start with a little bonus. Like the manager starts with additional components for a value of 2 that go on here. The engineer starts with a free trick that you can choose from, obviously, I think,
your own class.
I don't think so. I think you can just choose any class.
Oh, that was a default setting.
I might be wrong, but you get an additional trick, whether it's from your class or from another thing. And the assistant starts with her intern already in place, so you don't have to get an intern, or you don't have to move your stagehand over here to make him an intern, which sounds wrong, but yeah. Each of the specialists you can only be purchased once and added to your baseboard. So if you have all 3, you have all 3, and that's it. Now, this is what you do in downtown with getting tricks, getting people, getting stagehands, or getting specialists. Now, Mark Draw, I already told you, is to get components. These 4 spaces will be filled with the 4 basic components at the start of the game. And by sending someone over here, you get to take different types of things. The simplest is you can spend 1 action point to buy any one component up to 3 times. Meaning, if I want to have 3 glass, I send one guy here, spend 1 action to buy glass, and pay for 3 glass, which is 1 coin per dot on these component things. So I would have to pay 3 coins for my 3 glass and 1 action. However, I can spend an additional action to reduce the total cost of my purchase by 1. So if I would spend 2 actions, I can have buy for 1 and reduce cost by 1. So I would spend 2 actions to just buy 2 coins for 3 glass in this fashion. If you already are also are lacking a specific component for your trick and you need to get it, you can order it. And ordering stuff costs you 1 action. You just pick one from the pile, place it over here, and for the next turn it will move over here, replacing the component that is on the matching spot on the other side. So you can actually screw some people up in there if you see, hey, they really need metal next turn, and not anymore, because now you have the superior coat placed on the metal. Or you could say, I really want to do my coat trick today, and I really need this coat. So what you can do for 2 points of actions, you can quick order the coat. So it goes into this quick order space in the center here, and it will go away at the end of the turn. But as long as it's on there, you can buy it. However, it costs you an additional coin per thing. So buying 1 coat costs you now 4 coins instead of 3. And obviously you can combine those things. So you can quick order something, buy it, and reduce the cost by bargaining. You can buy something from the stock and quick order, buy something else, given that you have enough actions. In fact, for Market Row and for Downtown, as well as your workshop, they have this little symbol down here that says you can spend 1 of these so-called Trickerion stones, which is a resource looking like this, to get an additional action. But you want to...
You have to hold it higher. This on the lower, it will be cut when editing. I'm sorry.
Here. So you can spend them to get an additional action. You can only do that once per worker, I think, if I remember correctly, per action. Not per action, per placing a worker on a space there. But you want to be careful about that, because at the end of the game, the Trickerion shards are worth points, bonus points that might mess up to quite a lot of fame, and we'll get to that in the end game thing. Now, we have Downtown covered, we have Market covered. Workshop is as simple as I said. You have these 2 spaces, and apart from performing the actions of your specialist, you just get to prepare tricks, and how much a trick needs to prepare is always on the card. 1 caveat here, the trick has to be empty of any markers. So even if 1 is on here, you have to spend that trick marker before you can prepare it again. So sometimes you want to make sure to get rid of all of those. And then you just take a look at what it says here. This says Enchanted Butterflies. It takes 1 action to put 2 markers on here, and then you're good to go. Which leaves us with the theater. And as I said, it's a little bit special because, for one, you cannot spend your Trickerion shards there to perform stuff. And as I said, you have to decide and commit to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday on a given turn, no matter if you send 1 guy there or 3 guys there, and where to put them. These spaces down here are special and can only be occupied by the magician. You can send your magician to the backstage thing, but then you cannot use the performance action that's on here, and that actually happens after all the workers are placed. What you do there is, at the beginning of the game and with every turn, so-called performance cards enter the game. There's the Riverside Theater,
There's the Grand Megorian, and then there's 2-player versions for duels, but I get into that when we talk about expansions and variants. So the way these performance cards work is, you might have already guessed, they have spaces for you to place your tricks on here. And when you place a trick, you have to obey a simple rule. You take a look at what category the trick is. So let's say my enchanted butterflies with an eye optical illusion symbol on them means I have to take a look at my little tile here and put the eye symbol into one of these connecting circles. And you can see them, they all have like these colored spaces in between. Let me try to hold it up. So I have to put this in here, or maybe in here, or something like that. Now, either I or another player can put another trick in here, but it mustn't be the same. So let's say I have this trick already placed here, and I spend an additional action to spend another trick. In this case, I have this diamonds trick, and not related to the card game. So I can spend it on here as well, following the same rule, saying, let's assume this is an optical trick too. If I place my tricks, or if I place a trick and form a link, that's meaning I have a trick already, or someone has a trick on the performance card already, and I match my one of the icons with the other icon in this little circle, I get a bonus based on the trick that I used to perform the thing. It's either 1 fame or 1 coin for a level 1 trick, 2 for a level 16 trick, and 3 for a level 36. That's kind of expansion stuff. And it's always the player who completes the link who gets the bonus usually. However, sometimes there's a little Trickerion shard in here, and if you perform a link action in these things, all the players who are part of this link get one of the Trickerion shards. If you're the only player who performed this, you only get 1. Tough luck. But this is kind of to encourage other players to work with you, or to encourage you to do that. You can put as many of the tricks on here as there's space, as long as you follow those placement rules. And there's later performance cards that come up at a later point in the game. These are, I think, for the base game in the last 2 turns, that give a little bit of a higher bonus. Another thing that you can see here is this performance bonus on the bottom here, meaning if you placed your magician onto the performance space and choose this performance card, then you as the performer will get the bonus that's on here. And as you already are able to tell, the Grand Megoria gives you a higher bonus because it's a kind of a higher level card to do so. So these cards are on top of the theater here and get moved forward each turn until they get moved out of the game. If you still have tricks on here and the card was not performed until it reaches the end of the track, well, your trick tokens are lost. Well, not lost, you get them back, but you don't get any bonus for having your tricks on here. What you want to do in your game loop, prepare the tricks, place them on these cards, and then place your magician on one of these 4 spaces here, select a card with at least one of your tricks on them, and perform it to get all the nice bonus stuff that's on here. Just quickly to the difference, as I said, the Thursday gives you a bonus action if you want to prepare stuff. The Sunday space gives you a -1 because, well, it's the grand show on Sunday. You better have everything prepared in space. I guess that's what I'm telling myself. The other difference is, and I mentioned this, you get a bonus based on if you're performing on if your magician is on the Thursday or on the Sunday spot. Actually, that's not quite right. You get the bonus as long as you have anyone on one of those spots. You don't actually have to perform to get this bonus or malice on there. And that has to do with how tricks are evaluated. Let's go back to our spades in the Riverside theater trick. Let's say I have this on here and someone performs this card after all the magicians are placed and all the workers are placed and selects this card to perform it. And In this case, it would be probably me because my token is on here. What happens then is, first, I get the bonus that's on the performance card down here, or if someone else has his token on here, he gets the bonus there. And then each player gets a bonus according to their tile on here. The bonus is listed on the trick itself. That's the numbers in here. So my Enchanted Butterflies trick gives me 2 fame and no money. If I had chosen for this turn the Thursday spot, I would only get 1 fame and no money at all because I get the -1/-1 modifier. If I had the +1/+1, I would get, 2 fame and 1 coin in addition to whatever else I have in here. Another nice bonus that the performer gets is 1 fame for each link on the card. So you want to link with other players, but you also want to be the one who performs the card if there's a lot of links on the card because you want to have more fame. And once all those tricks are evaluated, all those bonuses have been gotten from the trick, you just remove all your little tiles back to every player's storage, and then the card is ready to get more tiles placed on them, or you get your tiles back to prepare this trick more often. Yes, there's only 4 of these little trick markers, meaning if you have already 2 placed in the theater, 2 on your card, or place 2 additional ones across 4 cards, you cannot prepare this trick unless someone performs this thing and gives you back some of your tiles. And the other thing you get as a bonus if you're performing is, depending who is backstage, you get a nice little, additional bonus. This only relates to the specialists, so if you have your engineer in the back, you get a free Trickerion shard if you perform a card. If you have your assistant in the back, you get 2 fame points, which is incredibly powerful. If you have the manager in the back, he kind of steals money from the establishment or something. He'll get 3 more coins by doing that. And as you can see, this is all nicely laid out with these icons down here. The only other action you can do in the theater besides placing a trick and performing a card is to rearrange one of your trick markers to another card or on the same card. However, you don't get any link bonuses that you might form with rearranging the thing over there. And that is pretty much how the game works over 5 turns. As I said, in the base game, you kind of decide who's first by looking at the fame track, decide initiative, do advertising, then plan out your moves by placing those cards face down. Everybody reveals, you one after the other, following initiative order, you send guys out to the different locations. Once that is done and all the actions have been taken, you check if any magician was placed on the performance spot. And the difference there is you don't do that in initiative order, but you start with the magician on the Thursday spot and then go forward. And that means you could perform a card with a tile of some other players on that. And if the other player's turn is after you and there's no card with his tiles on them, he just loses the thing, which is super annoying. And hot tip from me how to get rid of your friends playing with you. Once that is done, the realities of life come back and all the illusions are fine and dandy, but people want to get paid. Fortunately for you, your magician doesn't want to be paid because it's you who's putting all those 3 action points hard work. But you have pay 2 coins per specialist that you send out and 1 point per stagehand that you send out, except for the intern. The intern is free and can always be sent out, and yay, intern. If you at any point cannot pay up, you lose 2 fame points per coin that you cannot pay up. So it's really, really punishing not having money after sending out everybody. And as you've seen, the bank and performing tricks is the main source of income in this game, how to get coins. Then you move your performance cards over, reveal a new card. You kind of stack the little deck at the beginning of the game, and that's how many cards are out, depends on the player count. But it all matches up for 5 turns. And I think, let me check my little Magician's Workbook if I forgot anything. Because this has a little handy guide on here. Orders arrive is something that happens at the end, and then you just go into the next turn. By the way, every player has one of these, and these are incredibly useful. If you couldn't tell already, this is a game with a lot of, well, not necessarily downtime, but a lot of time where you will be trying to think, okay, I want to do this. That means I have to get this from there, and I'm going to send him there, but I have to be the first there, or I won't get enough action points, so I'll have to send him there, maybe him first. What was the trick again that I wanted to learn? Well, the good news is your little Magician Workbook lists all the tricks that are available for each discipline with all the things that are on here, which is incredibly useful. But it also gives you a quick reminder of what the different stations are, and it gives you even gameplay hints on what to take a specific look at. For example, it tells you straight away, if you send your magician to downtown and get the +2 spot, you can spend just 1 Trickerion shot to actually use 2 downtown actions, which is the only way that's possible. With any other combination, you only get to take 1 major action or one of the minor actions. And I think I actually didn't even mention that. And if you send someone to downtown, you can spend either 1 action to re-roll a die if you are really looking to forward to another thing on there, or you can spend 2 actions to just set a die onto the face that you are looking forward to.
That's the base game.
And then there's the end game bonuses. So you gain fame across the game, mostly from your tricks and performances. And then at the end of the game, you get additional fame for every 3 coin that you still have. You get fame for Trickerion shots that have not been spent by you, and that's 1 fame per Trickerion shot. And you also get fame for how much of the workforce you've acquired. You get, let me get
It's on the back, on the lower left-hand side.
This is... See,
it's a workbook.
See, that's just illustrating how useful having this thing for each player is. So yes, this says even for the base game, Trickerion shots 1, 3 coins 1. Each stagehand, each little helper is worth 2 victory points, and each specialist is worth 3. And I keep saying victory points, fame. I mean, but they are just victory points. And then you just see who has won the game.
And that's the base game.
That's the base game. And then there's, you can play the base game as is, as a 2-player game. Actually, for 2 and 3-player game, you will find that the spaces on here, let's see, actually, I think Marketplace or something like that is pretty good to show that. Yeah. So if you're looking at the board, you see that this has little indications which spaces are used for which game. So for a 4-player game, you will use every space here. But if you're just playing 3 players, you put an unused disc, on here. Talking too fast and breathing at the same time. You put a disc here to cover up the 4th player slot, and these 2 slots if you're just playing 2 players. Or you can play a variant, which is not really, and I think it was mentioned as an expansion in the Kickstarter. It's a variant rule that is just for 2 players, and it's called Duel of the Magicians. And for that, you have a little additional setup step each turn, which actually tells you which spaces, and if I'm holding this right, which spaces to cover up for this. And you always get to see what's covered up next turn, in addition to what's covered up in this turn, and gives you just a little bit more variety on the game there. Also, you are using a little bit different of these cards. If you can tell, these have all these little dual icons on the top. Actually, this has it too. So these are the dual icons on top. The difference here being that they have one already pre-positioned little tile here, which makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, in a two-player game, yours always kind of feels like you're setting up the other player whenever you place a trick there. So these are on here as well, and just make things a little bit more interesting and varied over there. But wait, there's more. It's a different game, but wait, there's still more to this game. We have a couple of expansion content here. The big expansion is called The Dark Alley, and actually happens on the backside of the board. So yes, you turn over the game board to find out there's more stuff you can do. I think that's...
that's kitty cat. That me.
Okay. So the Dark Alley stuff is all indicated by having a little cat icon, and probably that's not in the game.
You have to direct me. I cannot see.
There's a little cat icon over there. Now,
Shoop.
what you get now is an additional area here called the Dark Alley, and a space for prophecies, as they are called. Now, Dark Alley differs in a couple of major aspects. One being that now you only get 2 theater cards and 1 of each assignment cards, because now you have to buy or grab your additional cards. They are called special assignment cards, and they look like this. So you can use a special assignment card as a card to send someone there, and there's 4 stacks of cards out here, and you get to choose which one you want to have from the face-up one that's available there. And they give you special abilities when sending someone there, and it can be something incredibly simple, like you pay less for something, or if some other players are paying money at the market, you get that money as long as they paid it after you paid it. And you have to discard these special assignment cards if you use the special effect, or if the special effect is something you cannot use because you got the card in the first turn and decide, well, maybe it's useful, but then turns out it isn't. You can always use a +1 thing, which just gives you an additional action at the space that you're going to. But don't spend them lightly, because these cards are worth victory points if you haven't spent them at the end of the turn.
Fame points.
Yes. So let's quickly talk about what you can do here. Well, if you send someone here, again, these give you a +2, +1 bonus. And the actions you can do is you can pick up a card, which costs you 1 action. For the first card, if you want to have more than 1 card, each additional one will cost you 2 points of actions. And the third thing that you can do is rotate these prophecies here. And the way that works is there's now these round prophecy tokens, which are also described in your little...
Magician's Workbook.
Yes, if I can find it. In your little Magician's Workbook, and yes, there's a lot of them. And except for the first turn, there's always one of these prophecy tokens active, and it will be moved over here, and these kind of rotate clockwise, and then the one here will replace the active one. Prophecy tokens change the rules of the game slightly, or sometimes in a major way, by, making things a little bit different. In this case, this token says that the take money action now is only 1 action point instead of 3 for the turn that this is active. They are either positive or negative, and they, apply to everyone. So you want to have an eye on that. Maybe that could screw up your turn next turn. And if you don't want to have something coming up next turn, you can spend 1 action point to just rotate these clockwise and avert certain doomage kind of thing.
I love that word. Doomage.
Doomage. Again, making things more interesting. Obviously, to be able to send someone to the Dark Alley, you need a new card, and that's where you have the card that I so elaborately put away. Now you have a Dark Alley card to send one of your guys down there, which is otherwise not used in the base game. Also, if you're playing with the Dark Alley expansion, now the game goes over
What are you? What am I?
7 turns,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
which means more time for you to amass fame and to get better at tricks, which also means
And to annoy your opponents with actions that you do.
correct. But this specifically means that there's new tricks, and again, these are all marked with a little cat icon. You get fame 36 tricks, which give you way more yields and benefits, but require way more excellent, superior components to do all that stuff, and have a longer game. 2 turns doesn't sound like much, but I think it's surprisingly how much more fame you can get in 2 more turns, because they're like 2 more end game turns for the base game.
Yeah.
And that's in a nutshell the Dark Alley expansion. There's another expansion in here, which is a minor expansion, but it requires you to play with the Dark Alley once you want to enable that. And it is called Magician Powers. And not only, and I hope I get that right, that this is actually... No, I think I'm wrong. Another thing that the Dark Alley introduces is your character has a different side with the cat on here. And
A different board.
actually, yeah, I'm a little bit confused about what was part of which expansion, so I will quickly take a peek. A really small peek at what these powers are, and then no, I'm good. So these guys give your each magician a different special ability. For example, the Great Optico can use a special assignment effect on his turn if another player used that effect at a place he also went to. It's kind of like peeking at someone else's results and copying them. And that's the Dark Alley. Now, the other small kind of expansion is called Magician Powers and uses this Dark Alley board because now, as you can see here, you have slots to assign cards to. And I'm jumping around. Actually, let me take a small step back into the Dark Alley, because there's one thing I forgot to tell you. If you're playing with the Dark Alley, your endgame scores change slightly, de-emphasizing all the, well, not de-emphasizing, they just straight out, you don't get points anymore for people you hire. Instead, you get points for the special assignment cards that you did not spend, and for level 36 tricks, which come with a little requirement. Let me see if I can show you 1 or 2 of them. So, for example, this one, as you can see at the bottom, at the end of the game, you get a bonus for each superior component that you have. Or this one, that gives you a bonus again for each stagehand that you have, or the one below that says you get points for each level 16 trick that you have. So you still end up with a lot of fame at the end of the game as a bonus, but not by just acquiring more folks, but instead getting those over the level 16 cards. Now we talk about the smaller Magician expansion, which actually isn't quite as small. The game now starts with you drafting 8 out of 12 of these Magician power cards that you get, and they come in different power levels, again 1, 16, and 36, and you get 4 of each at the beginning and discard 4 for as how many you want. So you could, in theory, get rid of all your level 1 cards, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. You just, let's say you discard a couple of cards so you can kind of plan out your magical career or the career of your magician later on special abilities that you want to have. In this version also, your Trickerion shards work a little bit differently. Yes, you can still spend them to get an additional action, but if you gain them, your Trickerion shards are placed from bottom up on these slots, and you have to have as many shards on each slot to actually be able to unlock them. So let's say you started with 1 shard here and 2 shards here, so you can place a special magician power at first. That happens when you decide where to send everybody by placing down cards. So you can look at your hand, look at the card. If you have enough fame matching to the card, or pay the difference, again similar to learning a trick, and also have the slot unlocked as indicated by the card. With Trickerion shards, you can put it here and then get the bonus of these powers. These powers vary quite, I would say, in effect. Some are quite simplistic and tell you, well, you get to place 2 guys. Well, that's actually one of the more powerful ones. But some say if you spend or do something, you get a fame point. Some others say if you don't do something, you get a fame point. Some give you money. Some say money you spend goes here, and then at the end of the game, if there's money on here, then you get fame points for that. So again, more personalizing your magician. You don't get more than these. At the end of the game, during the game, you start out with those cards that you have, and you got to live with them. But you constantly have to decide: do you want to spend?
No, you have to live with them. Sorry, I find that amusing.
You have to decide: do you want to spend them to get additional actions, or do you want to keep them and unlock more slots for more powers? Did you make a wise choice? How do your powers compare to other powers? Do you want to say, screw all your powers, I'm going for the level 36 tricks anyway, and I don't really need that very much? One other major thing that changes with this, and now I actually have to look this up because I want to get this right this time. If you're playing with the magician powers, you also again change your game end scoring, and unfortunately this is not on here because I think the magician powers was something like a standalone thing that got added in the Kickstarter. I may be wrong. Please don't correct me on this if you want to help others understand this, but for me it's all in one game, and this is the only thing that doesn't go in there. So with this, what changes is you only get now fame for unused coins, and you get fame for unused special assignments and the level 36 cards. You do not get fame anymore for the Trickerion shards, which kind of makes sense because you're incentivized to keep them or to make the choice not now for do I want to have fame for this or do I want to have special actions now. Your decision process would be, do I want to keep the shards to get more powers, or do I want to spend them to get more actions? By the way, if you spend shards and don't have enough shards on here, that power goes back to your hand. So that might be unfortunate, but you can say, well, I'm fine with not having that power there anymore, so I can spend a couple of points of action there. That was almost an hour explaining how the game works. But to be fair, this is the base game with all the expansion. That's all that came in the Legend box. I'm terribly sorry if that was too long or too whatever. There's some other videos out there that explain this actually, I think, a little bit faster. But
not as much in depth.
That was my trick for you. I kind of tricked you into watching this, maybe, or clicking the link. And hey guys, welcome to everybody who stopped listening to me explaining the rules of the game that they might already know, to listeners talk about what we like and don't like. My magical trick here was that I kept talking for so long that my coffee got cold, so I will now drink cold coffee while Sarah will talk to you about what she likes and dislikes about cold coffee and
I love
Trickerion.
cold coffee. There is a saying, cold coffee, if you drink it, makes you look beautiful, which, of course, worked. Look at us. Anyway, let me talk about the game. What do I like? Well, yeah, you're beautiful. I know. Anyway, really? I'm gonna perform a trick too. I will make you shut up.
The backhanded trick of...
No, I was more like duct tape over your mouth.
I thought...
I'm never gonna hurt you.
I thought your trick was about magically having your hand print appear
I could
in my
fart.
face.
You would be unconscious and
No,
quiet.
we don't want to go
That's
there.
a trick too. Well, they can smell. Anyway, talking about the game. I didn't have a look at the concept of the game before we got it. So that was his decision to make. So I was quite surprised when I looked at the game. And
I just want to point out, this is the manual, because I forgot to tell that in the... Oh, you were talking about likes and dislikes? This is the manual. It is very...
I love you very much. But you graciously say, Sarah will now talk while I drink and then... jump in again. I love you dearly, honey.
I had a sip. You had your chance. I just
Come
wanna,
again.
I just want to point out the manual is quite
Kidding me.
quite elaborate, but remember this is also for the base game, including all the expansions. And also, this game is for 2 to 4 players. It takes, I think, it says half an hour
Per magician.
per player. Let me check. I'm really bad at this. Yeah, it says 30 minutes per magician, ages 15 and up. And that's what I would agree upon for the base game. Please, what did you like? Let's start on the wrong foot. What did you really dislike about this game?
Can I please talk about the things that I wanted to do? Anyway.
Please.
Sip coffee quietly, otherwise I will fart. And you will be unconscious.
Why, please, explain to the fine folks of the internet.
So, I was not I was not active in the section of deciding if we should get the game or not. That was all his part, so it just arrived here. I had no clue what it was about. I hadn't looked at it at all. And once opening the box, I was really curious because just from the artwork, not having looked at the mechanics yet, just the artwork and all the components that come with the game, I was intrigued. So though there are maybe a few things that look kind of flat when it comes to the artwork, it is all very consistent, and it kind of reminds me of the old posters that magicians really did have back in the day in Victorian times. We looked them up on the internet meanwhile, and they have the same art style. So what irritated me first, having quite the flat faces, for example, for some of the characters, it's actually very true to the posters from real magicians back in the day. So I guess it's done on purpose, and therefore now I like it even more than I was just maybe intrigued by the style when opening the box for the first time. I am in love with the fact that this game comes with tiny little sweet linen canvas kind of bags for the Trickerion charts.
I don't know if this is the Kickstarter thing.
I don't know either, but we said like 1,500 times now that we got the legend box for the Kickstarter, blah, 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 so people are aware. And it comes with nice canvas bags for the charts and for the coins, which I like a lot. And I do like those wooden pieces, especially because they have a matte finish and the colors are kind of desaturated, which I really like, especially the yellow and the blue. The green is more of an olivey green. It's just not as well common in many of those games and or many board games at all. And since the game has a lot of really what's it called? It's not sepia. Sepia is a dark brown. Well, this old, ochre, yellow ochre, you could say. This kind of old paper, antique kind of a feel. I think that the kind of desaturated colors of the components just plays into that, and it just makes a whole set on the table that's very consistent. It's just really nice to look at. Now, when it comes to the game itself, first time playing it, just like with every Euro game, kind of a game, you are sitting there like, oh my god, how should I remember all of that? And this is so much information and so many options and overwhelmed. And then you start playing the first round and all is good because you have tiny little icons on every part of the board and your own material that you have for your magician. There's only so many options, only so many actions that you have. So the feel of being super overwhelmed and having just information en masse, it goes away pretty quickly, and I like that. Though I do have that tense and like terrified feeling every time we play a Euro game. Though I know it's a Euro game, I still do have these feelings. I really liked that you have the initiative separate from the theater, so even if you're last on the initiative board, you could perform maybe first in the theater. That not everything is upon the row of initiative, like what space are you at. So you're either first or last in all of the actions. That's not the case. I like that the theater is kind of separate and a bit different when it comes to how that space works.
I don't think that it's fair to compare them because they're so different, but that reminded me a little bit of viticulture with having the different seasons.
Yeah.
Just by making things a little bit simpler or organized by just splitting them up, which is, again, not an entirely fair comparison because you still have to send your worker to the theater in the same turn as you do your worker placement in a singular turn, but the performance part is a separate thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really like that because then you could maybe not be last to choose which trick you're going to perform, though you might be last with the initiative. I did like the fact that you kept your resources once you had bought them, that you wouldn't lose them once you
don't really have to worry about.
Yeah, you buy them once, you keep them. I really like that. That's something I feel is different from many other worker placement games where you have to then pay with the resources to do the action and have to rebuy, blah, blah, blah.
And it also gives you, I think it helps by giving you a road to what you want to do across the turns, because you end up with, or you start out with a set of components, and the game actually has some recommendations on what good starter combinations would be. But with that, you can take a look at your little workbook thing and then say, okay, I already have these 2 or 3 components. What else is there? What makes sense? Where do I want to go from here?
Right. Just buy one more component and you could have a whole trick. There is like with many other worker placements games, there's this feel of rushing towards one specific action. I have to learn this trick because before anybody else does. And I like that you can do it. You can learn the trick, though you maybe cannot prepare it yet because you don't have all the components. So there's no hindrance there for you that you have to do a million other things before you can learn the trick, and then somebody else took it already and you have to restart. I mean, this game, the base game, has just 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So there's only so much you could do, and if the game would have hindered you by from succeeding by saying, okay, you have to have all the components first before you can learn the trick, I think that would not have been doable.
Well, the game kind of gives you the opportunity to mess a little bit with other players, but
only so much.
There's no direct interaction with the other magicians at the table unless you throw something at them.
Trickerion charts are a good thing to throw.
And also there's, I want to say, even there are possibilities to take stuff from other people, like you take a trick that someone else wanted. We rarely had that, and also
just spots that we wanted.
Yeah, it's more about spots, because the game is also over quite quickly. Actually, you have 5 turns. You don't learn a trick every turn. You maybe learn 2 tricks in 5 turns, or I don't want to say you do something wrong, but you, at least for how we played, that is kind of the maximum. Interesting enough, at least what I found really nice is that it seems to be quite balanced across what you want to do. You can go out, start a game, and say, you know what, I wanna rush to one of those Fame 16 tricks and perform that quite often. Or alternatively, you can say, I don't need very good tricks, I just need many of them. So you grab a couple of one tricks, or you diversify by learning them from other disciplines, which might have you go into a wider component count thing. But then again, that helps you in placing the tricks, because now you have tricks with different, with different icons on them. And as I said, with the trick placement thing, you have to have one in there. If you only have tricks from one school, you eventually will not have a lot of tricks that you can set up to form links. Yeah. Yes, you can set up 2 of your tricks to form a link, but if you want to have more than 2, it usually gets a little bit difficult, and you just have more options there.
Yeah. What I also liked was that there is, like with many Euro games, there's a ton of ways to be successful in this game and earn fame. There's just not one way to go, and if you don't go that way, you can pretty much just stop playing. And what I liked is the expansions that I feel this game is very, very well balanced for 2 players. It did feel, especially with the dual expansion, it felt like a 4-player game.
Let's go into the expansions soonish.
Yeah, though we just played the 2 of us. I really liked how they did cover different numbers of players on the table. The 2, 3, and 4 all were exciting on their own. I didn't feel like it was you had too much downtime with 4 players, or you were only playing a variant and not the quote-unquote real game with the 2 players. Never had that. And I really liked how they just worked with scaling the game pretty much.
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. We played this with folks who I would say are at least on the same skill level than we are, but we also played this with folks who have not played many Euro games or those involved games at all, and still everybody was really close together with the scoring at the end, and there was no clear, you have already played this game a couple of times, you have an advantage. Yes, you have an advantage in regards to the game progresses faster because you now already know what to look for, where you want to go, what are viable strategies. But still, even if you are kind of playing as you go along, you still had a fairly good chance not to end up last or be decimated by anyone else. So I was really pleasantly surprised there to see that it balances out. Same with it doesn't really matter what specialists you're going for. As long as you have a plan and want to try this out, chances are you probably will be successful. All the specialists in here feel adding a really great superpower kind of thing to your table. The only one I have so far a little bit preference over the others is the assistant, because of that you get 2 fame points if she's if she's backstage, if you perform a trick. But if someone would come up and say you know what, that is true, but these other 2 have this and that major advantage, and they have an advantage. It's just, to me, it felt like the system was a little bit more powerful when it came to the end scoring kind of thing.
If you had her in the theater, but sometimes you couldn't have her in the theater with your magician, and then the bonus was pretty much.
Yeah. But she also gives you an additional action with if you start out with a free stagehand intern kind of thing. And I agreed with you. Thematically, this is just fresh, or at least was fresh the first time. It's been in our collection for quite some time, waiting to be played, and then other things happened.
Got in the way, as usual. It's called life.
But I'm still. This is. This is one of those games, I would say, similar to Viticulture, that makes sense thematically. If this actually, what I very much like about this, that there's not the wizardy kind of magic thing in here. The only thing that is kind of a little bit mystical something are the Trickerion shards in regards to they give you an extra action. Anything else is you want to do a trick, you have to buy stuff to do the trick, then you have to set the trick up, but you have to find a good spot to perform the trick in regards to programming on which day to show up, where is the audience that gives most of the money, and that kind of makes total sense to me that a Thursday performance isn't as well sought out by the audience as a Sunday performance is. So that's cool. You just don't get a bonus just by initiative, but you can choose to advertise.
I like those tiny posters. It's cute.
If you're the first to run an ad campaign, you are it's not as expensive, but it will go viral. Well, that's not a Victorian kind of thing. But
it's pretty much Prestige, the board game.
Yeah,
it very much reminded me of the movie.
Yeah, it has.
It's not magic; it's illusions, and there's a difference there.
And if there's a tiny bit of magic in there, it's kept to a minimum to just spice things a little bit up. That's. Do you want to talk about the expansions, or do you want to rate the base game first?
I want to rate the base game.
Okay.
Or let's say I want to. Do I want to rate all in all?
Let's do them individually.
Okay.
So let's go for the base game.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
This is a very strong contender for me to be my favorite Euro game this year. This is kind of 2016. I know it came out last year, but
we only got it this year.
No, we
did it. Has it been delivered?
It should have been delivered for Essen, or it was available at Essen, but
did we
get that Kickstarter thing later on? But it was last year, I think.
Anyway, I thought we got it delivered in early January, but
Yeah.
then it would definitely be a 2016 game for us.
For me, this is I have to say I really like Viticulture as a Euro game, and I like the simplicity of Viticulture because that is a game that you can bring out. This is kind of the next step in terms of complexness or complexity. That at least just talking about the base game, that also is actually simple, but the interactions between all those stuffs really get your brain burning at some point.
You cannot play it 5 times in a row.
But I found it immensely rewarding when you have this rough plan in your head and say, okay, if I send someone there and that works out, and then it works out, it's like, I now I have a couple of tricks I can pull off, and I get the performance, and I was able to get the Sunday spot and get all the bonus per trick that I performed, and woo! And that is really rewarding. And as I said, we played this also with folks who just played, I think, Viticulture once before this, and that was kind of the most complex board game they ever played. And they were still able to go along. I think this is a great example of a thematic Euro game where theme and mechanics work well together and help you play better because you can identify with what you're doing. I would, if there's anything I'm not super happy with is the art style, but I'm fine with that. I agree with your remark that this tries to mimic these old flat art styles.
No, that we saw on the poster,
and it's consistent. I'm fine with it. But it's not something that kind of blew me away. And saying, yeah.
But there's lots of tiny little things you can see.
I do like
on the board.
It's mostly
that are not too obvious first time round, and I like that the two sides are a tiny bit different.
Yeah, it's mostly these guys here that seem a little bit bland. But
again, I mean, if it really tries to copy the style of the old illusionists in Victorian times, then they did a fantastic job, because some of the shading and line work is, I wonder actually if that artist was really trying hard to not be too correct and too heavy with shadow, because on some spots on the board you can kind of see that the ability is there, and maybe he or she is just holding back, which would be super difficult. It's like, okay.
I also like that in actually, and this is just talking about the base game, if everybody at the table knows how the game is played,
it's super quick.
It is actually fairly quick to play. Even if it says 30 minutes per player, if you don't count setting up, because there's a little bit of busy work there. But it's
not 2 hours that we played with 4 players.
No, I don't think so.
No.
It's it's pretty good for that. I mean, at the end of the day, this just goes for 5 turns, and those 5 turns, if you know what you're doing, are pretty easy. And big plus. This
is awesome.
I
totally forgot to mention.
As the game kind of has you thinking, what am I going to do next? Not having to go through the card stack, but looking at the cards in here, and even if you're explaining this game to a new player, saying, you know what, ignore the bottom one because they won't be in the base game, and ignore the 16 ones for now because these are the only ones that you can get. And if you have a question about what you can do at a specific thing, it's the thing that works a little bit against the game is its size. It is almost need a second table. We already have a fairly big table, and it's full with 4 players because of
it's pretty much like Andor or Viticulture. It's like a big game.
But even Viticulture has smaller player board game.
But the main board there is bigger than this one. So it's we have a table for 6 people, and the whole
Or
table
4
is
and 1
full.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you happen to get all the specialists, you have a fairly large board in front of you. But I do like that everybody has its own board. I actually like that kind of game that gives you a little bit of private playing space and a combined space in the center that is used by everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm a little bit exhausted.
We still have a section.
We still have to
go.
talk about the expansions.
And we still have a funny stories and experiences section to go.
Yes. Let's talk about the expansions, and I would say let's go with Dark Alley first, and then the Magician Powers, because the Magician Powers require you to play with Dark Alley.
And
The duels variant, I would say at the end
good.
for that, because the dual variant works with or without the expansions, and we played it with everything, all switches turned to on. I really like the special assignment cards from Dark Alley. The thing that kind of spices up that you kind of are getting better at performing tasks. You cannot just send 3 guys into the theater right away. You have to learn to do that and get those special effects, which are beneficial sometimes, more or less. And if you are very efficient with what you're doing, and you have some cards at the end, you also get victory points for that, which adds just another layer. I've heard people refer to this expansion as the advanced mode, and that's pretty accurate, I would say, giving you another step of complexness in.
Complexity.
I'm sorry. I've been watching movies that introduce words that are not.
Where did they say that?
That's from Pure Onage.
Oh. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, I know. Headshot.
No.
Sorry.
Boom headshot.
I know.
Whatever.
By the way, with all the deliveries that came this week, I'm kind of intrigued to say Doom headshot. There's no follow. We have to change the battery.
And through the magic of editing, this was too long for everyone involved. We had to change the battery. So more magic illusions will happen now. It's called editing.
Yeah, but I really liked my pun, so I have to repeat it just in case it was not on camera first time. With all the deliveries that we had this week in our household, I'm kind of inclined to maybe change the sentence from Pure Onage boom headshot to doom headshot, because the whole time this figurine of the Doom game is looking at me while we record. Yeah, whatever he's called.
It's a very important piece of history.
He was kind of sad that this figurine could not be on the
No,
couch
the duck
behind.
was sad because his new friend had to go away because he was too gory to be on this family-friendly channel.
I didn't want to have guns or blasters or whatever he has been looking at. Anyway.
She said before cursing like a sailor again.
I'm sorry. So, yeah, we were at the Dark Alley. You said you liked the thingamajig cards.
Yeah, I do like the special assignment cards. I don't like the prophecy stuff.
That's funny because it's actually super funny because I prefer the prophecies to the special cards.
Really?
Yes.
So
yes.
So then let me complain about them first so that you can lift them up again with your positiveness.
My sparkling illusion of positiveness.
Or positivity. Anyway.
Come on!
So the one thing, and that is a pure handling thing I don't really like about the prophecies, is that they are kind of tucked away at the edge of the board, and it was even hard for you to see what is the active prophecy this turn or next turn.
I'm super short-sighted, and I can't see the second part of the board. And I don't wear glasses at home.
But apart from that, even with that, it yes, it just has an icon on there, but you have to look it up sometimes, especially if you're not super familiar with them. And it's just a lot of busy work, just going through and what was this thing, and then everybody has to remember that this is active. It felt to me, I do like that it changes some things, but I don't like that.
The handling mechanism.
Yeah, it seemed to me like a lot of busy work for not that great of a payoff, or something that tacked on. It just felt a little bit tacked on. I do like.
That's really funny. We rarely are on so far apart with our opinions there.
Conversely, I that's why I like the special assignment cards, because you have to take out some of your standard assignment cards and just replace them, and they naturally fit into the game flow. Or by either use them or you don't use them, unless you're a chicken like you are.
No, that's exactly that was my point. You with the special assignment cards, you have to be kind of lucky what's face up when you go to the dark alley. So either you buy them just to get fame points in the end, which I did, because the ones that were out there were not beneficial to my gameplay, and I didn't feel I would send a worker there just for nothing, because it was pretty much just having those special cards in the end as fame, and I could make way more fame with other actions than sending a worker there. So if you're lucky you drew some very cool ones. I was not
but you can still play them as an extra action.
Yeah, but they were counteractive to what I did,
or even enable you to send just a second guy to the same space, especially for the theater.
Yeah, that was not well. I was super good and set with my standard cards and my magician, the specialist, and the hand thingy dude. I was not in need of more actions or double actions. I didn't have the tricks prepared, so I couldn't actually take the second one to the theater and maybe get a trick there or whatever. So I didn't have access to the cards that would be beneficial to me. So I didn't see the draw of going to the dark alley, but I do like the prophecies because you could switch them back and forth.
No, it's just four.
If you really need, like four times is like back one time So, and they changed things up when I needed that. For example, I needed a lot of fame to catch up to you, and I had money enough. And in one round, it said,
you get fame instead of
for every coin, and it was like, booyah, I'm gonna perform anyways, and I earned like 15, 20 victory points that one round. So just that little thingy that could maybe not benefit the other player, but you very much. I really like that. And I like that you couldn't say, okay, this and that prophecy is gonna come up in turn 4 and plan that much ahead. You had to kind of work with what prophecies were put out in the first round. And there are so many tokens that you just blindly grab some and arrange them on the board. So that, to me, added to changing up a few mechanics for one round only. And it added to the point of replayability, as do the special assignment cards. But again, they were not beneficial to me in that one round, because you don't always draw the same things in every game, per se. So
also,
I preferred the prophecies.
And I have to admit that actually that's a point that goes against both the busy work part, as you have to look up the prophecy symbols and what they do almost each turn and remember. So
but it's communication.
So you have to do for the special assignment cards, because you have to. It is not really realistic for everyone to read them, so you have at least one guy to read them out aloud at the beginning of the turn or whenever they change, so that everybody knows that. But then you play a turn, and since this is quite demanding mentally,
It's
you will
draining.
probably have forgotten what the cards were 2 turns later. So it's
Yeah,
like,
or
what
it's
was in
just
there?
like you read them out in that turn when they were placed. Then I put my dude there, and you asked me which one do you want to have, and I was like, "Fuck, can you read them again?" I'm sorry, I forgot already.
And the chances are good that we're just Eurogame noobs, which is perfectly
I'm the
fine.
perfect viticulture player, especially if I
Yeah, but
drink wine. So I'm good with Euro games.
But that's I don't. Yeah, see,
No, it's just-
that's one of the games where I wouldn't say Viticulture is a simple game. It's very elegantly designed around this workflow, and Trickerion has that too in the base game, and the Dark Alley stuff is just moving that. It feels to me like it moves it just a tiny bit out of that elegance.
Yes,
Circle.
it's. I guess it's really the point. Like, there's easy Euro games, though I don't want to call them that. It's not the right word, or more streamlined, streamlined Euro games, and then there's the super involved ones that take you 5 hours. And I guess with the Dark Alley, you could play to the players that like the 5 hours super long hundreds of tokens one, and the streamlined plays more to our liking, maybe.
I also would be fine going so far to say we both like Lords of Waterdeep quite a lot, and specifically when we started playing that, we enjoyed that because it's the worker placement stuff, but it's not too overwhelming, and it's actually pretty good to get new players on as a I don't want to say gateway game because that means something different, but
it's a nice way to introduce them to that system.
But playing that quite often, at some point it feels like, okay, this is getting a little bit bland, and then you can put on the expansion, and then you have a, I don't want to say full-size Eurogame, but it adds more complexness. And makes
He wants to hurt my brain. I'm on the verge of a migraine. Don't hurt my brain anymore.
With Trickerion, I would say the probably if what I can see is if we played the base game more often, we might get to the point
that
But the bar for the base game is already quite high in comparison to other things.
Yeah.
So I am happy that Dark Alley is there and that we can add it in. But, and that goes streamline after we rate it into the duels thing, I would
magician power you said first.
I would be cautious with enabling too many things at the same time. So, Dark Alley.
Okay, good. We got it.
Similar to you. It's cool. It adds more. But be prepared that it takes more time and a little bit more brain cycles.
One thing we might want to try at one point, and I'm not sure if it breaks the Dark Alley or not, just play with the prophecies, not the cards, and vice versa.
Well, it breaks the thing because then there's no other action available in the Dark Alley thing. But
no, I mean, like, it kind of breaks it. Whatever.
So jumping on to the next mini expansion, the Magician Powers, which do something I like, and some more of stuff I don't know if I like. So to me, those powers felt a little bit off, or that's a little bit luck based. What
you mean
what
the cards,
getting.
or the one of your magician that you select?
Some of the cards seemed really, really good, and some were like, can maybe depends. Kind of good. What I really like about the Magician's thing is that it takes out Trickerion shards out of the scoring kind of thing, and now Trickerion shards are there to determine your special abilities only, or how many you have, or if you want to have special actions. And you would get through those special abilities, maybe more victory points. But I like that because for some reason I do like having the Trickerion shards in the base game and in Dark Alley, but I found that is a little bit too not simplistic. I'm at a loss for words. I would have liked to see the shards used for something else than just victory points at the end of the game,
and another action.
because that's just another resource like money is. You could have almost said, okay, instead of having Trickerion shards, let's adjust the money values you get, and then you can pay to have an extra action instead of having the shards. So the shards kind of seem like superfluous in the base game if you could model the same with just a singular resource, and then again you have less stuff to take account for. With the magician powers now, the shards actually have a way more meaningful interaction in the game, and I like that. But the powers, the magician powers themselves, maybe we got unlucky. I haven't looked at all of them. Some, again, seemed kind of more or less powerful. And I think that's what the drafting session at the beginning of the game tries to not fix, but give you a better chance.
The ones that I found most valuable were the 16 ones. I kept them all.
Yeah, I haven't used magician powers at all because
I loaded onto I had the full stack, and I still had a ton of Trickerion stones left that I couldn't do any actions with because I was all set on actions. I couldn't do anymore, couldn't pay anymore.
I needed more actions so desperately in that game. So, but that shows, I think, pretty well.
But I like
that
the 16 ones. It's like
both valid ways.
That's kind of experiences, but there's some that say if you don't use the special action cards, the special assignment cards, then you get a fame and a stone. And I had that out pretty early, and it got me a lot of fame because the cards didn't play to my beneficiary actions anyways. So,
the other thing that kind of is a little bit in the way is that it requires you to play with the Dark Alley, and the Dark Alley already amps up the playtime.
It's big,
and now you have even more to look for out for. It's not you don't have to use the magician powers necessarily, but if you have, you will have players at the table who look at those cards, and it just makes everything a little bit more longer, tedious, and. That's almost on the verge of becoming unfun because everything is so
it drags out. There's a good space of downtime there that you didn't have.
And I'm saying this coming from having played this as a 2-player variant. We haven't even played it with someone with AP, analysis paralysis at the table where I can see the game falling apart. But
anyway, let's rate this one and then go to the favorites of mine when it comes to the expansions.
This is going to be a little bit unfair. Yeah, I was saying this in relation to what the other thing is. Yeah. Actually, I think I would like a Trickerion game with the magician powers without Dark Alley. For the reason as that I like the idea of having something else to do with the Trickerion shards. Yeah. And I like the notion of having different abilities for the different magicians, that they're not just, here's a card, it does almost the same as every other card. I like that idea of having that in there.
I'm with you.
So actually, let me I do this. It's all right, but there's some.
Yeah, it's not my favorite expansion. I can already tease and say and spoil.
Maybe I would think differently on this if we had played Trickerion a bunch of times and are just so ingrained with whatever.
Maybe, but still, I can't see those expansions be my favorite ones, and not the one that we're going to talk about now, which is the duels. Yeah. I really liked the cards for the duels. It changes things up quite a bit.
This is, as I said, a variant for the 2-player game, just to mix things up. And to be honest, I would go so far to say that
this isn't a
that's
must.
Not the variant. That is the only way that it makes sense to play the 2-player game.
Exactly.
First of all, this really switches things a little bit up, makes it more interesting. Yes, it might be unfair at times for one or the other player.
It is pretty much like a 4-player game. Then somebody else takes your spot,
and if
it's not unfair.
These cards very effectively just simulate 2 other players or 1 other player at least that mixes things up and takes your action. And as I said, since there's so not much interaction going on, I'm happy with this solution. If you are the type of player that really likes that mental clash of minds, like one game where I have that is Quantum. I don't think we actually ever talked about this.
No, we didn't have it on the couch.
But that is also a game with, yes, there's some luck, but there's a lot of going mind to mind with your opponent is specifically in a 2-player game. And if you really enjoy this, maybe you don't want to use these, but that's one thing.
I love those.
The other thing are the where did I put them? I said this probably an hour ago or 2. that I also like these because it does not punish you for being the first to put a trick out and still rewards you a little bit. Now you could argue that the reward would be that you get to choose if you want to go to the Thursday or the Sunday spot. But with just 2 players, it could be that you're not putting out that many tricks. So this is actually making things a little bit more interesting. Yeah. And these preset things, I don't recall. I don't think I have seen them on a Trickerion shop space. So, that's with that.
So let's write this last one and then go into
that's I don't have to pretend. It's I said it. If you're playing the 2-player game, play it with the dual version.
Exactly.
And if you find out that you really dislike it, give the regular version a try. But
I really, really like this one. So, funny stories experiences, finally.
I would say the funny story stuff, we actually covered quite a few of those when talking about the rest, so this probably won't take that long.
Yeah, correct. But I really liked how my mom responded to this game.
Talking about the players who haven't played that many games.
Exactly. She was quite overwhelmed in the beginning, but learned very fast that she can ask again and again and again, and we will remind her of things throughout the game, so she relaxed quite a bit, and she enjoyed it a lot, and she was really good. She came in second.
Yeah, and again, this is, I think, a big plus for the game, that even in that game, we ended up with like 4 points of fame apart to each other, which is, I think, perfectly fine as a close game.
Yes, and that happened except for the last game, that we were always very close together.
All lights on,
Yeah, just him and me playing, and there was one thing that I just didn't remember. It's, in the end, you get the bonus points for the 36 trick, no matter if you prepared it or played the trick. And I didn't buy it.
Components and stuff,
but you said you just needed to have the trick in your
with the components, yes.
Yeah, and then you would get the bonus points, and I did forget. But I did forget that. So you were like 7 points.
Also, in regards to experiences, our 2-player game, first of all, yes, everything was enabled, and we had this. We played this once, but I had an exceptionally good 2 rounds. I would say, where I was able to perform on a Sunday with maximum amount of
12 points.
Level 16.
12.
Tricks, which is ridiculously powerful.
I could have slapped him.
Yeah, I had some really, really good things. But, apart, I have to say, from a couple minor rules mishaps that we had, like we forgot that the special order components actually cost 1 more. This worked pretty well for everybody involved. And I have to say, everybody really enjoyed it. And liked the theme, found it fresh. So
exactly, it was just
probably will get more playtime.
Oh, very likely, very likely.
It's rare for me to have a board game that keeps my mind occupied in between plays. So when we played this the very first time, I was actively thinking before we played the next time, it's like, okay, you could do this, and how about this? And
planning what to try next, right?
That's a really good indicator, and I don't mean between games, but between Sundays. So between playing this, that's a good indicator that there's something to that game.
Yeah, we tried all the magicians. We played it 4 rounds, and each of us tried every magician once. And in between Sundays, I was thinking, okay, so last time I tried not to get the 16 trick, so this time I have to try it. Or it was like, okay, let's have just 2 tricks and just prepare them, buy the stuff for them, and then just go workshop theater, workshop theater, workshop theater, which for me, I have to say, worked best. It was the game that I won. It's all, you always play different depending on what magician you have, what assistant or second person you have with you. So I liked that, and I can tease already we're gonna have it on Draw for Initiative in the next season.
What do you mean?
To say,
Draw for Initiative is done.
No, it's not. We're working on. I just finished the painting.
But you're now a
the
talk
day before
show
yesterday. It's just
with a really good host.
Oh yeah, he's loved by the folks. Now it's just intermediate for 8 weeks, 7 more to go. We had the first episode. The second one will come out on Wednesday, 9 a.m. CET. And we decided which games we're going to paint for the 3rd season. So we always say in between the 20 and the 30, that's the 3rd season to go. That we're painting. And we have Trickerion in that regards. I actually finished my painting the day before yesterday.
I see. Now you cannot tease it at a later point because
I will, because I
will have forgotten about what.
For one, and you don't know which of the 9 games that are in the next season are in there and in what order we're going to publish them, so you don't know.
I see.
Yeah.
So
right, that's a super short video that we just had here.
Yeah, thank you guys if you're still there for sticking with us. It's been a long, but it's to be fair, we could have almost done 2 videos, one about the base game, one about the expansions.
Yeah, and we didn't want to.
And there's a lot of game in there, and it's actually it's not terribly difficult per se, but there's a lot of little things, and if they come together, and now us talking about, it's one of those Euro games, intermediate to pick up. Difficult to master. I would say I don't want to go so much so easy to learn, but it's a Euro game. It's a good game.
A Euro game.
It's a good Euro game.
And the publishers are working on a new game, so once you pick this one up and mastered it, the new one will probably be delivered from the Kickstarters.
Yeah,
just saying.
The new one called Anachrony. I've seen the major mechanic described as you can send resources to your past self, or you can request resources from a future self. Better said, I immediately thought about Trickerion. It's like, yeah, if I could order an animal from the future to have it available now, that would be really helpful. So that already.
So of course we backed it next year.
It peaked German lesson of the.
Ouch! Don't peek me. Or poke, as the English person
piqued
said.
our interest, although that is a different peak. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Thanks.
Am I your interest and you peeked me?
No, I did a magical trick.
Okay. It's an illusion.
I will do another magical trick.
Which is? Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Do all the good YouTube stuff. Like, share, subscribe. And if you have questions or comments, leave them downstairs in the comment section.
Or on a piece of paper and then stick it to the screen.
Get yourself one of these birds. These. Give him or her or it the letter and then send it to us. The dove will find our house. Probably. It's an illusion, is it not?
That bird is a cardboard bird.
Yeah,
it
but...
does not fly.
Let me show you. You can fly.
I'm sorry, guys. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Happy Sunday.